Hello, everyone. This is Judy Feldhausen, and I'm joined by my co-host and good friend, Bob Wischmeier. Hi, Bob.
Judy, it's great to hear your voice as well. These Saturday morning webinars and Monday morning conference calls, they bind us together somehow. We have this common denominator and like-minded group of individuals and friends, and it's wonderful to be able to be a part of that. It's being a part of something bigger than ourselves, I think, Judy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're going to continue our journey with Napoleon Hill today and Think and Grow Rich. And we're on the 7th chapter. It's all about decisions. And Bob, we're a smaller group today. So what do you think about asking for people to chime in?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, that'd be great.
Because, decisions are a real personal thing. And for some people, it's fast. And so for some people, it takes a lifetime almost to make a decision, or seems like a lifetime to make a decision. And neuroscientists have said that we have between 160,000 to 180,000 thoughts per day. And 50% of those require a decision. Can you imagine?
It's amazing.
We're not even aware of most of them. They're so automatic that they just happen. But we're going to talk today about some decisions that maybe are not so automatic, or maybe they are automatic and they are sabotaging us.
I read an article, Judy, just a few days ago about with regard to the human brain. There's a part of the brain, and I meant to grab that information and have it ready this morning. I forgot until this very minute, but it indicates that there's a part of the brain that if it gets damaged somehow, and that could be through a head injury, or it could be genetics as well, but there's a part of the brain that controls, if you will, the ability to make quick decisions. You can actually have a syndrome or an injury that will preclude you from being able to make decisions. And I will kind of get into that a little bit farther as we go along. But no matter what, you guys, you don't have any choice. That every day you have to make decisions, and it's just a part of life. Sometimes those decisions are just as simple as, am I going to put butter on the toast or jam on the toast or whatever? But some of the decisions that we make, the choices that we decide to make from day to day, can have some pretty consequential, even grave consequences after we make those decisions. But this life that we live, it's all about making choices. And I think, Judy, too, with regard to Napoleon Hill, there is this element of time when Napoleon Hill wrote this book versus the world that we live in today, because things have changed, wildly changed since he was here. But he has some interesting insights. I think as we go through this discussion today, though, all of us need to stop and think about this in terms of our own personal lives, the kinds of decisions that we're making. How do they affect our personal lives? How do they affect our business world, our family? But with synergy, seriously, you sort of have to decide, right? Because when we're looking at new people, if we make up a list of 20 potential team members and 20 potential customers, in our own mind, we have to decide now, does this person, are they going to want to be a team member or just maybe a product user, whatever? And so, we have to create our why. We've got to make a decision how that's going to look, for one thing. And to bear in mind, and Judy, I wrote this in my notes, that the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? I swear procrastination's the devil's tool. And so as we go through this today, let's be thinking about that, Judy.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're not even aware of the strength and the power of the decisions we made. I recently read a book called The Butterfly Effect, and it's about how a butterfly, you think of a butterfly and the daintiness of its wings, but that little movement that they make changes the air, and that air, it actually goes around the world. That little tiny movement creates a difference for everything. And so making decisions is a big thing.
Judy, you wanted some feedback. So I guess then we have to blame the butterflies for global warming, right?
Yeah, that's a way to look at it. Right, right.
I think that's taking it maybe a little bit farther than what she was thinking, Dan, but thanks for the thought. Gosh.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so when we think of decisions, we're talking about you personally. And as Bob mentioned, it's different for everybody. And you have to think about what's going on in your life and what's going on today in the world. It's not just about us, but how it affects those decisions, how it affects others. And I thought Napoleon Hill's first talk about that, about not to follow opinion. He really talked about 1776 and independence and all of that. But when you think of what's going on in politics today, whose ever side you are on, it's about not following other people's opinions just because they say it. And to really take time and do research to make sure that what they say is also your opinion.
Yeah, that's so important. I thought it was interesting. Napoleon Hill made the comment that opinions are the cheapest commodity on earth. And they certainly are. And everybody has opinions about things, and people love to share them. It's just how it is. We need to learn, I think, in this life to, if you will, keep our own counsel. We have a brain, we have a mind of our own, and we need to use it accordingly, thinking things through, figuring things out ourselves, and to not lean so much. Now, there's nothing wrong with seeking counsel. There's nothing wrong with that. But Judy, I believe that there's a spirit of discernment that you can have in this life. The ability somehow inherently to be able to discern what's the right thing to do and what's the wrong thing to do. I think we come with that, if you will. And I lean on that pretty heavily, in my life and in my world with regard to my family and my property and things of that nature, that I try to discern what is the right thing here. Is there, do I have a kind of a spiritual feeling? Is there a complete stupor of thought here? Or do I feel like I need to move forward with something? And that's how I look at that. We all know people who think they know everything. And we're well aware of that. But most people, those kinds of people, they just simply talk too much and listen too little, right? We have two ears and one mouth. We need to listen a little bit more. But so following other people's opinions, again, seeking some counsel is certainly important at times. But boy, when it comes to making decisions, we need to make our own.
Yes, and when you have that counsel to make that decision quickly and not be like my mother used to call, don't be wishy-washy, right? Don't decide and then undecide and then decide and undecide, but make that decision very quickly and be really forceful in that decision, because you know that with the information that you have right now at this time, it is the best decision.
Yeah. And I think, Judy, too, that just experience and, life experience, that helps us a great deal as well. There's so many firsts in life. This is the first time I've ever experienced whatever this is. And it's harder to work through something that you've never, ever been faced with before. I know that's happened to me many times in life. But once you've experienced something, it makes it a lot easier to make that quick decision going forward. And so life experience can really help. I just wanted to share a little story with you guys here while we're talking about making decisions quickly. My father-in-law is a really, really good man, and he's wise and smart and strong and capable and everything. And years ago, but he has a very hard time making a decision. And years ago, he broke his axe handle. Now, this is going back, 40 years ago or more. But I was at their house, and he said, "I need to get a new axe handle. Do you want to go with me to the store?" And I said, "Of course I do." And I went with him, and we went to probably 5 or 6 different hardware stores. He picked up every single axe handle in every single one of those stores and felt it and looked at it. And we came home without an axe handle. He could not decide which one to buy. I would have bought the first one that I ran into, not Bonnie's dad, and her sister is the same way. They just can't make a decision to save their lives. And so for those of us who maybe are a little bit quicker on the draw, it gets really frustrating to be around people like that. But there are folks like that. So we do need to learn, make that decision, make it now, and then stick with it.
Yes. And along with that, the next step, change slowly. So a lot of people get into synergy on a quick decision. They saw the product, they love the product, they like, I can sell this product. Absolutely, this is the product for me, this is the business for me. And after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they decide that it's probably not right for them because they didn't make, the million that they thought they would in the business. And many times what we need to do is to stick to that decision and to figure out how to make it work instead of jumping from one decision to the next decision quickly. We want to stay in that decision and not continue to just do something else because that didn't work.
Yeah. They're kind of a little bit like nitric oxide, right? A very short half-life.
Absolutely.
Well, and then there's also the note here, the thought about sharing wisely. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Judy. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was done. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, just that it's important that you be cautious what you share with other people. You're held accountable for the things that you say. That's just how life is. And boy, I'll tell you, you share something on social media, it can go viral really quickly. Or you share your thoughts in a text message, for example. It's almost impossible to read anything into a text message other than just the words themselves. And you can do a lot of damage. You can get steered in the wrong direction very, very quickly with things like text messages or little cryptic short emails. If you leave off an exclamation point or something on a text message, that's interpreted. So you share things wisely, especially in the business world. There are just a lot of things you want to keep close to your chest. Keep them private. In my lifetime, I've often felt like sharing certain things is a bit like casting pearls before swine. There's that concept that a pig has no idea the value of that pearl, and they'll just trample it under their feet. And it's the same with certain things in life, sacred things, personal things, and carefully sharing business things. There are just a lot of people who will not respect what you have to share. So anyway, share wisely.
And some of those people are our own friends and family.
Yeah.
So when we're sharing, we look at people that are going to support our decision and not belittle our decision. Or, Uncle Henry that said, I got in that network marketing thing once and that stuff is a scam. It doesn't work. And, we don't know what was behind that story, but we take counsel that may not be wise.
Yeah. I remember an experience many, many years ago. A friend of mine was talking to me about his couple of his grandsons. My friend's son-in-law he was kind of he was brilliant. He was creative. He could do anything, but he was not a very good person, to be frank. But anyway, he had two little boys who were also learning to be very, very capable. And the one little grandson made the comment that someday he was going to buy a certain kind of a pickup truck. I can't remember what it was. And his brother said, "You're never going to be able to afford a truck like that." And the little boy said, "Well, then I'll just build one." And I've thought about that through the years, I'll just build one. And that kind of an attitude, the negative attitude didn't stop that little boy for a heartbeat. If it couldn't go one way, he would make it go another way. I love that.
That is amazing. Yes. And I'd like to see the success of that little boy now.
Yeah, I'm sure he's done well.
I'm sure he has.
Yeah.
And then we want to talk a little bit about risk, because sometimes the decisions we make do have a lot of risk involved in it. I remember my first foray into network marketing was with a company that I was like a small store. So I had to invest in inventory, and this was back in 1992 or so. And I had to invest $2,000 in inventory for my store. And that was a huge risk for me. I didn't really have $2,000 that I could throw away at that time. Not that we ever want to throw away $2,000, but that was a lot of money for me. But I was sure that I could make this work. And, it did. I was one of the top 3% people in that company, but I had to risk financially, not just emotionally and time and everything else. But there was a lot of risk in that. And sometimes we need to take that risk to be successful.
David, when you, during your banking years, when someone would come in and they wanted to, I don't know, invest or make certain financial decisions, maybe financial planning, that kind of thing, were those decisions that they made of great import, or were they just, they're like, am I going to brush my teeth today?
Oh no, they wanted all the details, Bob, for sure. They wanted to break it down and make sure they understood before they made a decision. So they were always hesitant, especially when it came to money.
Yeah. See, it's hugely significant. And sometimes the decisions that individuals have to make are like beyond just a little bit risky. Abraham Lincoln, when he wrote that Proclamation of Emancipation, that decision to do that, to state the things that he stated in that proclamation, literally led to his death. I mean, that there are some decisions that we make, that men and women make in this life, that are extremely risky. That I read that the value of decisions depends on the courage required to render them, which I thought was such an interesting statement, because sometimes it takes a lot of courage to make certain decisions. And it can be anything from just little things about your house or your kids to, something as significant as Abraham Lincoln went through. So anyway, there's a measure of risk, right, Judy?
There absolutely is. There absolutely is.
I was reading, you guys, Judy's put these pictures up on the screen here. And when I was reading in these chapters of Napoleon Hill's book, I was taken back, really, frankly, by the amount of American history that he shared in one of these chapters, talking all about founding fathers of America. And he made this statement. He said, "The greatest decision of all time, as far as any American citizen is concerned, was reached in Philadelphia, July 4th, 1776, when 56 men signed their names to a document which they well knew would bring freedom to all Americans, or leave every one of the 56 hanging from a gallows." Now that's a decision that had to be that took a lot of courage to sign that document. And so we think about, the little decisions that we make in life, but very few of them have that kind of potential or potential end result, Judy.
Well, and, another thing about that is that, some of these men were rich. Some of them had nothing. They were just simple men. They were farmers. They were, some of them were professional men, but it's not like they had a lot of money. And I love this statement. It says it was such men as these who, without power, without authority, without military strength, without money, sat in solemn consideration of the destiny of the colonies. So
Really
you don't
profound.
have to have everything to make a decision, right?
Yeah, it's so true. And I appreciated too the direction that Napoleon Hill was going with all of this. He mentioned that John Hancock and Samuel Adams got their heads together. They were really they made a couple of decisions that something had to happen. They had to get out from under British rule. Those two men started having conversations back and forth, and made that decision. Look, this is what has to happen. Now we need to move forward. And that was a very challenging decision to make. We understand it. I mean, we look back in hindsight, but how much courage it took for those guys. And everything was slow back then. Communication was really slow. Another one of their friends, Richard Henry Lee, actually, those guys got their heads together, and the three of them made this decision that if they were going to be able to move their thought forward, this whole concept of leaving British rule, the three of them needed to find a way to correspond with leadership in all of the colonies. And so what did they create? They created a mastermind, right? That's what happened. They got a hold of people in all the colonies. So now they've made a couple of extremely difficult decisions. They've figured out that they were going to have to mastermind with everybody, keep everyone on the same page and move forward. That's probably the first organized planning for those poor disgruntled colonists. But all of that is what led to where we are today. Decision making is profound.
Absolutely. And I really loved how he included the planning on around that, because making the decision is the first step, but there's a lot more to it than that. As we've all learned. And power of success. I actually put this slide up, the electrical power lines. I've got a picture of Jeff standing holding power lines somewhere. I couldn't find it. But as many of you know, my husband Jeff is an electrician, and he works with power all the time. But when I think of power, I think of the internal power that we have, those internal decisions that we have, and those wires that bring us electricity, they are just the vehicle of the power. They are not the power themselves. Without the appliances on the other end, without the lights and the stove and the clocks, we wouldn't have any of the results of that power. So that success really includes internal things that we must have, that we must be in order to come to a powerful decision.
Yeah, the starting point of all achievement is desire. That's the bottom line. You guys, I have a letter in my stack of stuff I think in a trunk that was written by my great-grandmother. She came here to this spot where I live, this homestead, in 1908. And at some point in time, and I don't remember what year it was, but she'd written a letter to my dad, who was just a little boy at the time, living, I think, in Portland, Oregon or something. But she said to him something along the lines of, I've been watching the linemen bringing electricity out here to the ridge because they didn't have any. In a few days, she said, I'll be able to plug in a toaster or an iron if I had one. Wouldn't I think I was something? That is one of the most refreshing little things I've ever read. My little great grandma, Mary, out here thinking to herself, someday I can plug something in. I can have a light bulb. And look at where we are today. Just amazing. That whole power grid thing it's a powerful, powerful tool, Judy, and I appreciate you using that. But everything begins with a desire, right? With our synergy businesses, with personal things, begins with the desire to create something and then making the decision to do it.
Absolutely. A little over a year ago, I had this desire to further my synergy business into a bigger thing, and started studying to become a holistic health practitioner. And that decision that I made back then is opening up such a big world to me. I talked to somebody this morning from New York, and she just thanked me for some stuff that I was helping her with. It's just, such a powerful thing when those decisions that you make come to fruition, and you have that faith, first of all, to know that it's going to succeed.
Well, and then we need to be persistent. I mean, that's a big part of that as well, Judy. There's got to be you have to have a definiteness with respect to what it is that you want to do. A definiteness of purpose, right? That's what keeps you going. Then you have to have that desire, and you have to be self-reliant too, I think, to a certain extent, in order to be persistent and to keep moving forward. You have to have a plan. You have to have accurate knowledge, and often you need cooperation from other people and willpower, all of those kinds of things. And everybody on this call understands all of that. You have to create habits, that help you to move forward with the decision making that you make to get you to the end result that you're looking for. There's just so much involved in being successful in something. And you just have to learn to incorporate all those things into whatever it is that you're trying to get to, Judy.
Yes. And I think, you mentioned persistence, Bob. I like to just sit on that for a while, because I think with COVID and what happened, we all became isolated, and that isolation really, I believe, stopped so many people, and is continuing to not allow them to move forward, because they were forced to stop their jobs, their social lives, so many things that they were doing in their life. And if we don't have persistence, we're not those self-starters that you talked about, we are going to fail, because it's so easy to give up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it affected a lot of us. I don't know how all the rest of you are, but you would think that during COVID that I would have been more actively engaged in trying to share my synergy business. But I discovered during that lockdown period of time, I think I probably worked less, not more. And it might just be shame on Bob kind of a thing. But with the new app, this Legacy 2020 app that we've got, we're right at our fingertips, no matter where you are. You can be, I've sat in the physical therapist waiting room, waiting for Bonnie while they work on her knees, and sent out a half a dozen messages to people. So we have some tools today for success that we didn't have before. My opinion is that this new Legacy 2020 app, it's really going to make a difference. I've had some great responses already, and I've only got through the letter B in my contact list. So I think we're really lucky.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And, sometimes we can make decisions in those small goals of time, right? We think we're so busy and we don't have time for things, but there's always those little slots that we can do just a little bit with. for a lot of years, we talk about procrastination. We mentioned that right at the beginning. And for me, what it became, procrastination became the choice that I was making. Not that I thought I was delaying my choice, but I was choosing to do something else. And some of those choices that I was making was not supporting my success. And so thinking of procrastination as, okay, where do I have this choice here? What can I do with this little bit of time I have, or maybe a bigger chunk of time that is going to support me and my vision for my life?
Yeah, I appreciate that very, very much. And I was just thinking just now, Judy, that where I live, out in the country here, there's an old farmer's adage that goes something like, if it's not in your head, it's in your heels. If it's not in your head, it's in your heels. And what that means is that if you're not thinking about the things that need to be done, the things that you need to do, you do a lot of extra walking. Everything I do out here on my farm, I've got to walk from point A to point B. If I forget a tool, I've got to walk back to my shop, get that tool, and go back. Everything I forget because I'm not thinking it through, I have to walk. If it's not in my head, it's going to be in my heel. I've got to walk back and forth. And I learned a long time ago that the wisest thing for me to do, if I want to take advantage of my time out here, because I've got so much space out here, is I keep things written down. And there's nothing wrong with a guy like myself to have a tablet in my pocket with specific things written down on that tablet, so I can get those things done while I'm in the process, while I'm outside and doing my work outside. There are little things in life that we need to do so that we can be successful by staying organized.
Yeah, and that's where that organized planning comes in. And it doesn't need to be a 10-page document. It doesn't have to be the Declaration of Independence. It can be a to-do list.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I totally agree. Well, you guys, we've kind of burned through our time frame here. Judy, should we open this up? Does anybody have a thought they want to share this morning?
I sure do, Bob. This is David.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
First of all, guys, I just want to thank you. This, Judy was saying I'm a busy guy this season. Yeah, there's a season and the other side of my business that I do, I'm pretty busy, but boy, I just love to just stop and take time Saturday mornings, Monday mornings to listen to our team as we talk, because you revisit all the reasons why you do what you do in our field in this energy business. And when you're talking about decisions that you make, if you could go back to the previous slide, the decisions and the desire you have to make that decisions, my mind goes back to my own decision 10 years ago to trust someone who approached me with a product that I've never heard of, and give me a guarantee of effectiveness and take that first step. And then the things that transpired afterwards, where I started sharing the same product and related to nitric oxide therapy, and the people that I impacted. And here we are almost 10 years later. And as you guys were talking in terms of people willing to take a risk, and Judy and Bob, you asked about the bank, there's a term we use at the bank called your risk tolerance. And the risk tolerance just means how much money you're willing to lose if you invest. And my mind goes back to the risk tolerance of the people that I talked to 10 years ago that suffered from diabetes or complications, cardiovascular issues. And their mind, as I talked to them and shared my experience, they had to make a risk tolerance decision based upon their desire to feel better. And they want to feel better, but how much tolerance did they want? How much money did they want to sacrifice? Many of them, the great majority of them, said, I don't want to sacrifice my money in exchange of trusting David or feeling better. It may take too long. That's why your thing about, the results come slowly. So they decided to go in another direction. Yet the people that did trust, 10 years later, and I'm thinking of making a video, where were you 10 years ago and where are you now? Kind of puts in focus, especially in my own life, the decisions we made and what directions our life took as opposed to others. So this presentation you guys gave is just so powerful to that aspect as I'm thinking and looking and with the book and what the meanings of all these different examples that you presented, risk tolerance. Ben Franklin, the founders sharing their putting their lives at risk for the foundation of this country, the desire for something better, and in our field, the desire to feel better, desire to live a quality life. Are you willing? And that's why when I talk to people, I'm so passionate. Because I know what we have is so special, and I know what we have works, and so your presentation just brings that all back up to light and kind of inspires me more to do what I do in the energy business. So thanks, guys. I really appreciate that.
Oh, you're
David.
certainly welcome. Yeah. Well, along those lines, for me anyway, today, there's that Legacy 2020 app training that's going to be happening here in about an hour and a half, something like that. And I had a chance when I was in Utah to see the guy, the rapid funnel guy who created that app. And I think he's going to be on for, I can't remember, like 18 weeks or something like that. Every Saturday morning, he's going to be on to talk about how to use that app. So I'm going to jump on that. And just now I sent you guys a link. I think I did. So if you want to get on that, but I'm going to be on that. I want to learn how to use this app better and expand my business a little bit better with this new tool. So I'll be doing that. But thank you, David. We love and appreciate you very much. You're important to us. So thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Judy, that's all for me today.
Me too. Anybody else have anything else to say before we wrap it up?
It's Donald. This today's webinar is so powerful to me, that is, because I've been making decisions all my life, albeit at times, the challenges and all that. And I recently came across a book. I don't know how many of you might have read it or read about it. The Hero of 1,000 Faces by Joseph Campbell. And what came out of that is all the Matrix and all these movies. And I recently been overlaying my life, so to speak, with that whole thing, where at 22 years old, I fell in love with a woman who had, and this is like personal, I don't mind sharing it, who had already had 3 children and got one for me. And my decision was, I'm not going to leave my child like the other fathers did. And what that did was, it took me to marrying her, and our decision to move to United States, which got me, through a lot of stuff. She recently passed, and my decision, I had to make a decision, having been in New York alone, because I've just before COVID, I took the children, they wanted to move to Florida, and I moved them in February of COVID, which was in March, so to speak. And then my decision was, should I stay in New York or move to Florida or come back to Barbados? And again, I made that another decision. And I'm finding through that book the hero's journey, where you know, a lot of my decisions thankfully have paid off. And I maybe, if I can, I'll write a book to my grandson, hopefully, laying out, you know, all of the challenges which I went through. And naturally, in all this would be meeting you guys, meeting Dan, going through my illness, lining up with Synergy, after having gone through all of the other network marketing things, the coffee, the you know, as Judy said, you open a store, but then with Synergy, your store is one that is health, I mean, which is an asset. I mean, it's not coffee, but you can help people, and I've certainly helped, and I'm doing quite a bit here since I got back and have been getting out. And I mean, diabetes here is rampant, the amputations and all that stuff. And I've hooked up with the Barbados Diabetes Association and slowly getting my feet wet, because one of the challenges, and we talk about challenges, that if you're not in the medical field, if you're not a doctor, how dare you, you know, talk about ailments and that kind of stuff. So you've got to, the doubts, you've got to weave your way into the discussion and show how your product can help in the situation. So I look forward to, you know, all this stuff, and Judy, thanks, and Bob for, and it's a coincidence on today's topic, decisions, and I've made several, and I thanks for stirring my memory on this. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Donna, did you say the book is The Hero's Journey?
Well, the hero, his book, The Hero of a Thousand Faces. Ironically, the hero singular of a thousand faces. But then out of that became several people wrote a book, and like How We Meet, called The Hero's Journey. And
Okay.
everyone has the matrix, the guy who made the matrix, he made the matrix out of that book. And Harry Potter's, in other words, there's the villain, and you've got to make a decision. When you have seen that book, you will realize how he has and the myths and all that. It's a very powerful book.
Thank you. I've written it down.
Okay. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you so much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Donald.
Judy.
Anybody else before we say goodbye? Well, with that, Bob, I guess we'll talk on Monday.
We'll talk on Monday, you guys. Thanks, everybody. Y'all have a great weekend, okay?